Side. Evan, we had Karen Finney on at the start of the show, and I asked her about expectations tonight, and she pretty much said, well, you know, we always expected Bernie Sanders to do really well, maybe win this state. And I've been hearing this from Clinton people for the last 2 weeks. You know, oh, Bernie Sanders had this huge advantage in New Hampshire. And I got to say, yes, there are some areas in the state that border Vermont. They are generally lightly populated areas. There isn't too much Burlington, Vermont television in Manchester and Nashua, and I don't think this advantage is at all what they're saying it is.
Well, look, the Bernie Sanders campaign had to hear last week that a 2% win by Hillary Clinton, 0.2% or whatever it was, that's in dispute kind of, was a win. You know, win is a win is a win is a win is a win. That's what came out of the Clinton campaign. So I'm, you know, on the way over here, I was talking to a senior Sanders person on the phone, and this person told me that, look, the way they view it is 50% plus one is a win. Everything else is momentum. I mean, I think it's hard to argue that point. I mean, sure, there are factors that make it easier for someone or easier for somebody else, but to have a Clinton campaign that just completely turned Iowa into what they think was like this juggernaut, right, you know, jump-off point that proved how solid her campaign was, to come here and be like, okay, well, yeah, we're going to lose by a lot, but I mean, that doesn't really mean anything. That just seems like that's a lot of spin.
Well, and Sabrina, the other thing is all the talk from the Clinton side about the advantages Bernie Sanders has in New Hampshire. You know, he's from Burlington, Vermont. Okay, Hillary Clinton came into this race with 100% name ID. Right. Former First Lady, former Secretary of State, who won the New Hampshire primary. She had a few advantages
too. Won the New Hampshire primary in 2000, you know, the 2008 election, whose husband had his own comeback here. I mean, this is where he called himself the comeback kid, and who came in here with all the right endorsements. From Maggie Hassan, the popular sitting governor, from Jeanne Shaheen, who is obviously the only Democratic senator from this state. A lot of other endorsements from state lawmakers as well. So, you know, it's unclear, of course, as to how they're going to be able to really spin this narrative coming out of a major loss. I think she's denied, you know, actually last night on Rachel Maddow, that there's a big campaign shakeup on its way, which was reported in Politico. But I do think they're going to have to take stock of, you know, at the end of the day, her message fundamentally is not translating to the people she needs to reach, whether it's young voters, whether it's women, single women especially. That's something that they're really going to have to overcome in the coming months, even if she is going into states where she is more favored to win.
And Evan, on that question of the gender gap that Sabrina brought up there, you said you were hearing something interesting on that.
So I did a story earlier this week, just talking. I went to the crowd at a Sanders event right after the story of what Gloria Steinem said about women who support Sanders are boy crazy, essentially, and Madeleine Albright sort of using her often repeated quote about there's a special place in hell. Right. And the women in this audience, right, in this Portsmouth, New Hampshire audience, they had all seen the quote. They were all very, very aware of it and very offended by it. And it's been a huge problem for Clinton. This whole week has been a huge problem. And I actually spent a lot of the week talking to young Democratic strategists who are women in Washington. I have a story coming out about this. They are really upset with the way the Clinton campaign has been reaching out to young women. They think there's been some huge problems in that effort. And I think it's something that Clinton's going to have to try to solve going forward. It's not one of those things we were talking about earlier about New Hampshire not being just a stepping stone to South Carolina. There are things we are learning about Hillary Clinton's campaign and Bernie Sanders' campaign in New Hampshire that are important things to learn and to pay attention to as this election goes forward. So we can't just sort of say this is a stepping stone of Vermont, neighboring stepping stone to the south. This is a real election today that really matters, I think.
All right, Evan McMorris-Santoro, Sabrina Siddiqui, thanks for joining us. And that will do it for our hour of MSNBC Live. I'm Steve Kornacki. Our special live coverage continues next with Kate Snow.